Let's cross over live to Istanbul, where Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu is talking about the EU deal on refugees and economic migrants. Let's listen in.
We started a roadmap, and we were in Ankara when we did it back in the time. And we are here to share the fruits of that roadmap in Istanbul. And I'd like to express my gratitude to our nation. Today, if we are here, the biggest glory goes to nation because they voted for the stability and peace. And we are here because of the national will of Turkey. It's not just about expressing the roadmap. It's about we did promises for 3 months and 6 months, and we declared them. And during the time, as the government, what we did as the government. So let's talk about what we did, and we wanted to inform Turkish people about what we did. And I'm expressing with pride today the promises that we made during the election in 81 cities of Turkey. We carried them out 100%. And the reforms for the first 3 months were carried out with 70%, and we carried out the 30% of our promises for 6 months, and I thank those who are involved in carrying them out. We are here for what we do, and you follow what we are working. We're working around the clock. While we're doing that, some people are just carrying out assaults, and they just violate any morality, and they humiliate us. And I condemn here once again those who think that humiliating people are politics. It is not. So what we do, we carry out what we do. This is what we do. We carry out, we revitalize, and they provoke, they humiliate us. And again, in your presence, I condemn these negative words, and I'd like to invite them to respect specifically women in Turkey. I hope the leader of the main opposition, these are not just recommendations, these are also the recommendations of Sheikh Edebali. I hope he follows that. Where we are, just like in any other AKP government, we carried out our promises on time, and we're proud of this. At a tough time with difficult problems, domestically and internationally, we serve our country. We are surrounded by fires, and there are bloody fights in our southern border, and we see the negative results every day. And to save their lives, those millions of people who seek refuge in Turkey, we open our cities, open our tables, and open our hearts, and we employ everything that we have. And after June 7, the terrorist organizations who attacked Turkey simultaneously, we're fighting against them too. And these are the things that any government could use as excuses if they didn't carry out their promises. But we don't do that. We are not such a government, and we will never be. In this circle of fire, for the safety of our nation, we work around the clock, and we also bring stability and peace. Simultaneously, we carry out reforms on democratization, and at the same time, we provide public order and try to attain EU targets. No one and no power can stop Turkey's walk. We will never let that happen. Turkey, despite all the negative, all the preventive efforts, it's never going to back down from its targets of science, democracy. And in a multidimensional way, we keep our fights and we carry out our targets. Last week I was in Diyarbakir and I met with our citizens, fellow citizens, and we were united against the terrorism. And today, with our actions, we are united in Istanbul today. As of today, there is nothing that we promised and didn't do. So we promised and we did. We will promise and we will keep doing them. There is no delay in our schedule of promises, and sometimes even we did it before due time. About budget, for example, the budget marathon, we had a 2-week break and we had a deal with EU about visa exemption. We had to do some legal regulations, so we delayed about 30% of our promises for the first 3 months. But then again, we carried out the 30% of the 6 months promises. So in total, we carried out what we wanted to do. So I'll share with you in details the success table. I'd like to express one thing. We are concerned. Our only problem is about serving this country. This is where our government is headed. Every part of the society lives in wealth and peace, and the farmers, the workers, the small business owners, they should get the fruits of their work. This is the Turkey we are going to build. We are building. In this line, in 14 years, we are removing the obstacles on the way of democratization and development, and we opened the clock channels of democracy. We developed the Turkey, which was fighting with crisis, and Turkey now shows a performance, best of its performance. We provided self-confidence to our business people, and we promoted export and high value, and we focused on tourism and employment, and we just got our people, our country move would be in a fitting fashion to its history. About farming, we supported farming as it has never been done before. We worked around the clock for the safety and the well-being of our people, because at the center place of our politics lies our citizens, our nation. So here, once again, I'd like to express my gratitude to Mr. President, who started this journey. Dear friends, in the year 2015, in parallel with our expectations, we grew 4%. In an environment where the global economy was not stable. We had 2 general elections, the geopolitical risks of our regions. Despite all these, Turkish economy and AKP's virtuous politics, Turkey keeps growing. Turkey is in the right direction. I'd like to mention what we promised and what we did, but first I want to talk about some economic facts. About 4% growth, except for India and China, we grew bigger than twice of developing countries, and we are the 4th country in G20 countries. We are the 4th country in G20 countries in terms of development rate, and the fruits of this growth is being felt by every part of the society. The small business owners, farmers, they all got their share. So we are growing the bread in this country. About 700,000 citizens' employments were created, and since the crisis, 6.5 million jobs were created since the beginning of the crisis. So, after United States of America, we are the biggest country in terms of creating employment. In 2015, the deficit was taken down to 4.5%, and the financial discipline that we attribute, the importance that we attribute to financial discipline is well known by everyone. The ratio of budget deficit to the national income is about 1.5% now. We created a stable grounds for banking sector. And this positive outlook in the economic situation continued in the first months of 2016. And the first month of 2016, we grew 5.6%. In the month of March, we had a 1.9% increase in terms of the capacity of business. And in February and March, the export increased. And since 2010, those countries who grow, those people who grow with Turkey, those business people, those farmers, those workers, they grow with Turkey, and I'd like to express my gratitude in your presence here. In the first 2 months of the year, we didn't compromise on financial discipline. A lot of people were asking questions about what will be the burden of these promises on the budget. So they were questioning if we didn't make the right calculations. Well, they should know we never hit the road before making well calculations. We do what we promise, and we follow our calculations. The central government's budget, there is now an extra of 6.6 billion Turkish liras. Now, there is now 16.4 Turkish liras extra we have, because we hit the road. We started with the prayers of our peoples, because we are moving on with those who are depraved, who pray for us on a daily basis. And from now on, our government will always be careful and will never compromise on financial discipline. We decreased inflation to single-digit levels, and, for example, the inflation was in March was lower than expected, and it was actually the lowest in the last 7 months. If you look at it on monthly basis, the index decreased, and we believe 2016 will be more fruitful. Those who expect chaos and crisis, they will be frustrated. Those who want to prevent Turkey from growing, they will never achieve their targets. Turkish economy will grow, and the well-being and welfare of our peoples will always be better. We will carry Turkey to higher positions in terms of global economics. Dear guests and those who watch us on TVs, it's time to increase our level of economics. So we identified structural reforms in this regard, and we shared our action plan, and we created a schedule. And since then, on a regular basis, we acknowledged, we just informed the public on what we did. We never promised what we will not do, and we always did what we promised. So we are not those who promises then forgets, who just looks for excuses. For the last 14 years, we just keep our promises. We trust our people, and our people trust us. And when people trust AKP, they know that AKP does what it promises. We think 1,000 times and speak only once, and once we speak, we carry it out. We follow every promise that we make. If the reform program to be carried out effectively and on time, we have a council now who follows the realization of reforms, and there's a website now who shares the last situation on what we promise, on the promises and reforms. So every citizen can get information about our promises and reforms. We are transparent. We never hid anything from you, and we always did what we promised. In the general elections, I went to 81 cities in Turkey, and some of our cities I visited 5-6 times. And so our promises, we imprinted them on our hearts and minds before, and then shared it with the people of Turkey. As of today, we carried out everything that we promised, and as I said, we carried out 70% of the promise for the first 3 months, and about the 6 months promises, we carried out 30%. And about the EU talks, the schedule could have been done before, but we focus on our promises. So we promised in March that you will go to EU without visa in June. And I will share in June that you will be going to EU without a visa. So this is why we postponed some of the promises of the first 3 months, that we would focus on the legal regulations of this visa-exempt situation. Let's focus on a permanent budget. But the parliament did not authorize that, and our parliament just worked on the contemporary budget for 3 weeks. The opposition they try to prevent us keeping our promises, and well, they will learn that we do what we promise, and they'll get used to it. So in the schedule of the parliament, we had necessary delays, but we did what we carried out. We did what we promised. A more developed, a wealthier Turkey. This is what we're going to get. And we're trying to make the conditions better for the investment, and we're trying to strengthen our competitive economy. And on the one side, we are trying to increase sustainable development, and on the other side, we are trying to redistribute the wealth to the general public in society. So this is what we call inclusive development. Now, I'd like to share what we promised, and I'd like to express the promise and reforms, and we'll see their fruits altogether. The precondition for a high level income, what matters is increasing the efficiency. The labor efficiency relies on a quality and planned education. In this regard, in the action plan of 2016, we laid a special emphasis on education and employment. So we're taking steps to increase the employment, and employment of youth and women is again what we focus on, and flexibility of labor market is again another thing what we're working on. And vocational education, vocational training is again what we focus on. We want women be more active members of labor market. So in this regard, we are increasing we're trying to better the situation after birth. We had done some supports to births each time, and 850,000 female workers now, they are being supported specifically when they give birth. And those parents with children, until their children get to a education age, we are supporting them. There has been a choice for Turkish women. They would either choose to be a mother or choose to be a professional. So what I say, I'm underlining the respected woman in Turkey, the respected woman in Turkey. I'm underlining this. Whichever political perspective she has, whichever worldview she has, whichever ethnic or sectarian orientation she has, every woman is respected, and we will kiss their feet. They're entrusted upon us. And from now on, we always opposed violence against women. So we will again be determined to fight against the humiliations against women. The humiliations is a kind of violence, actually. And we will always stop those hands who are extending to harm a woman. So we will have the same attitude towards the tongues who humiliate women.
Okay, that was just Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu talking about the number of issues there. And let's cross now to Andrew Hopkins for a little bit of a summary. He's in Ankara. Have we got you there, Andrew? Hi there, Andrew. If you can just give us a few comments on what Prime Minister Davutoglu included in his speech there for us.
Yes, Sally, it seemed to be quite a fairly wide-ranging speech covering a number of topics, but he was focusing on the economy, how the government is backing the economy, trying to find ways of making it grow faster. He was talking about the competitiveness of the economy as well, but he also touched on this, the controversial refugee deal between the EU and Turkey, which came into force just in recent weeks. And he touched on the issue of visas. Part of this deal between the EU and Turkey involves Turkish citizens getting visa-free travel to the EU, to the Schengen area, which pretty much kind of matches up to where the land that the EU covers. And he's saying that Turkey will have its house in order as part of this deal, and that he is assuring Turkish citizens that they will be able to travel to Europe visa-free by June as part of this deal.
Okay, Andrew, thanks very much for that. That's Andrew Hopkins in Ankara there on the latest speech made by Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu.